Okay, ready to go.
Excellent. Welcome all, and thank you so much for being here. Before we actually get started, we have just a few housekeeping items. We're going to ask you to engage with the presenters through chat, like Jeff was just saying, in Zoom, which is actually in your Zoom chat taskbar. So please make sure you select all panelists and attendees so everyone can see, and thank you for those of you who have been already chatting in with your locations. Please put your comments and questions in there so that we can address all the things that you're thinking about. We're going to be monitoring chat as we go through. Also wanted to let everyone know that we are recording today's session. So if you know anyone who would love to hear this after we're done, or you would like to listen to it again, please direct them to the learning page on MercerLink where they can find the replays. Today's session is part of our week-long Digital Fluency Virtual Festival, highlighting some of the great work being done on the Mercer Digital team under Gail Evans's leadership. Chris, if you don't mind going forward two slides. Yeah, perfect. Many people have been asking, what is digital? So I wanted to take a quick minute to address this question. We are a team of 125 people from across the organization coming together to create with the business, instigate change in the way that we work and how we operate, and provide trusted delivery on the tools that you and your clients need. You will hear about the way that we partner, ideate, innovate, enable, and deliver over the course of this session and the other sessions this week. Our 4 digital stars and 6 digital moons are great examples of the power of doing digital. These are our digital big bets for 2019, and you can find out more about them on our digital community page and during these digital virtual sessions. We have one for each digital star this week. The first one was yesterday. The next 3 start tomorrow, Thursday and Friday. And so we would love for you to register to hear about them or catch the replays when they're posted. For now, and Chris, if you want to go to the next slide, we want you to know that we are here for you and we're excited to be with you on this journey. We want you to know that digital is the way we work. It is a growth engine. Digital will help all of us accomplish our goals as a company and as individuals. Together, Mercer wins, leveraging the good ideas of each colleague in our company, along with bold thinking and calculated risk. You, our colleagues, are an important part of our journey in disrupting the market effectively. Support, upskilling, and new resources are here to help you prepare for your future of work. The digital team is here to help you maximize the value you bring every day to Mercer. We will realize the power of these statements through success in 3 focus areas: education, innovation, and co-creation. This week we are focusing on education, but we are using the innovation and co-creation work that has already been done to show the way to make this dream a reality. We are excited to be learning with you this week. And so without further ado, I will turn it over to Yvonne and Chris. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Yvonne Sonsino. I'm the innovation leader for our international region. I'm based in London. Chris?
Hey, I'm Chris. I am digital strategy leader in Gail's team, specifically focused on the career line of business, and then occasionally get some hands-on time with projects, including various AI projects.
So today we're going to talk you through how to run a great digital project. I suppose joining up now, as we have done in this one big team, the innovation unit being part of digital now, we can actually see the whole thing end to end. And today we'll take you through that. Chris, if you move on one slide, we can dive into the purpose that we see today. I think partly it's introducing the people in the team. So I'm in the innovation piece of our 125 strong digital business. There's about 8 or 10 of us, plus we've got lots of volunteers as well, and rotation assignments. So if you're interested in working in one of the innovation hubs or on one of the projects, then look out for the rotation programs. We also want to share methodologies, and there's a lot of different terminology and different methodologies in use around innovation within Mercer. So we can talk to you about a few of those and share some resources with you on those. Also keen to share some learnings. Chris and I have worked together probably about, I don't know, 3 years or so now. And we've been through a few hoops, and we can share some of those experiences with you today. And obviously, as we go, we'll be giving you good links to follow up on some of these resources and follow some more learning of your own. Do you want to add anything to that slide, Chris?
No, I think that's great. Okay, so then just in a kind of an appreciation that there'll be different people on the call today, and we want to acknowledge that and say that we may be a client-facing leader or a manager who may be interested to take some things away for engagements with clients that you're working on. And in fact, in the kind of spirit of all the other sessions that are running as well across different learning festivals, we did also do a session last week called Effective Digital Conversations with Clients, and that's available on the Virtual Festivals page for replay, where we went a little bit deeper into kind of those conversations and dynamics with clients. There may be business leaders and managers on the call who have their own digital projects. You're spending CapEx or run the business dollars right now as we speak, and you want to have more effective ways of working. Or there are product owners and business solution managers or digital delivery teams on the technology side who may be looking for frameworks on how to improve their processes, or just some guidance, or just enjoy some learnings from failures. So that's the audience that we imagine are here. So Yvonne, should we start with some of the different methodologies in the innovation space that people can use for starting to tackle a digital project?
Yeah, happy to talk you through some of these. So I've listed 3 here, and these are from 3 of our key markets. Design Council is a methodology that we're using in the UK and Europe, and we might dip into that in a second just to show you what's involved with some of that. Innosight is where the US started. So that was the methodology 3 or 4 years ago that they started with in the wealth business at the time, looking at how to actually ideate and create based on their methods. And Inventium is the latest addition to our stable of methodologies. And this is an Australian company. And there are links here to various resources. And maybe, Chris, can you dip into that innovation playbook, and we can just take a little look at the Design Council methodology. It may work, it may not on this. Okay, so this takes you through to a link to our global community site. So we have a global community innovation site. People in that picture there are all our colleagues. So we spent about 3 months with Design Council 3 or 4 years ago, going through a fairly hands-on set of training with them. Design Council was set up in the UK as a reaction to the Second World War, actually, and how to get business in Britain innovating again. And their methodology, they're a not-for-profit organisation, and they have helped turn multiple organisations into design thinkers. So yeah, as we scroll through there, you can just see what's in this playbook that we put together based on our 3 months of training. What is innovation by design, how to use this playbook, the Design Council framework for innovation. We walk you through it, so we talk you through what the challenges might be that your businesses, your clients are facing, what the impact of those challenges are, and then a whole series of tools, including one there called the Double Diamond. The Double Diamond is interesting because that thread runs through the Design Council methodology and the Innosight methodology and the Inventium methodology. It's just called something different in each one. Scroll down a little bit more, Chris.
And Yvonne, slightly unscripted, but you say we take you through. Does this mean that people on the call can request your team to take you through this methodology?
Yeah, we've done a lot of that. So those are that little strip of people there are our design ambassadors. So they're the 19 people we put through the training program 4 years ago. So in multiple markets, we've got a design council trained person across what used to be our Europac zone. And what we're very happy to do is help everyone get to grips with these tools, and we can do it. We've done a few of these virtual sessions now. We did one recently with our colleagues in India. We've done similar for Poland, for Austria. We've done them for colleagues in Australia. And I thought this was interesting because when one of the first questions they asked us when we went into the training room, bearing in mind you've got 19 consultants in the room from Mercer, and they asked us, so who in the room is a designer? Put your hand up. And nobody put their hand up. And then they said, all right, let's ask it a different way. Who in this room has to react to a client request? So a client will ask you to do a piece of work, and then you have to formulate an answer and a strategy and put together some deliverables based on that. So everybody put their hand up. So, okay, basically everyone therefore is a designer, because if you're designing and devising a course of action aimed at changing existing situations into preferred ones, that makes you a designer. So you're already partly in the design thinking methodology just by being a client-facing consultant in Mercer. There's, I don't know how many pages in this, there's 100 or so. We won't look at them all today, but that's the Double Diamond framework. So basically what this means, on the left-hand side, you'll be in the early phase of a project when you're really out there with clients thinking about, well, how you actually defining the problem. You will go wide. It's called converge and diverge in the Insight methodology, and in Inventium have got different terminology for it. But typically you'll take your idea much broader, then you'll home it back in, and it's when you reach that central point, that's when you start actually coding and figuring out how you build something. So typically in Mercer, I would say, in my experience, this is one of the learnings, we tend to think we're much farther over to the right-hand side than we actually are. And we come up with ideas ourselves in our business units or inside our organisation without actually testing it out there with clients. So big piece of advice, certainly from me, would be take yourselves back further over to the left and really start thinking through that idea with clients in the define stage, when you realise you'll go wide and come back in again before you design.
And this is going to come back, this Double Diamond, isn't it, in our operating framework?
Yeah. So we can come out of that one if you can, Chris. So Insight, we won't go into all of these links now, but feel free to browse them. And what I would say is we don't have a single methodology in Mercer. This is what I'm trying to illustrate, is that all of us have become familiar with our own ways of doing things. There is no one prescribed way of doing innovation in Mercer, but everybody has permission to do innovation. And here are the resources you can use to help you get your head around it. And you'll feel more comfortable with one than the other. With Inventium, I know we've got a relationship with them so that we can actually go on one of their training courses, and also online on our Mercer training links. There's all sorts of innovation and design thinking training you can do if you're interested in pursuing that. So maybe that's enough on that slide.
Great. So then when we're talking about a project, we see some key roles, and we thought we'd describe those for you. So I mean, all of these roles are roles that you'd find in a good agile project. And at Mercer, certainly we're encouraging everybody to start to think about moving towards the agile methodology, and agile as a topic is a whole kind of presentation, or potentially a day or two in itself. But there are these kind of three key roles that I think people should be aware of. The first is the business solution manager, and this is sometimes called the product manager, but the kind of the core essence of this role is that they are market facing. And I think what we could call out here is to say, you represent the view of the problem, you represent the view of the customer, the client, the pain points, the unmet need. And I think sometimes people may say, well, that feels like something that we need help with. And I think this is where Yvonne's team and the innovation teams globally can help. And I think I've certainly seen frequently that the innovation teams supporting business teams here, or technical teams in terms of defining the problem clearly and doing the research. Yvonne, I'll always remember that day we were in a room together when we were building a product without the data to support it, and you sort of stood up in front of a group of colleagues, I think, and it was, all right, so who has some data that supports all this gut instinct that we're talking about what our buyers really need? And I remember the room just kind of falling silent, and the conversation very quickly was then, okay, yeah, we need to do that. I think, I say this a lot, but it's probably the fastest way to burn $1 million is to work without data. So yeah. And then we got the product owner role. So the product owner here is really the person that owns and communicates the product vision. A key thing about the product owner is that this, I think, is a real skill set. It is a real it's a real, somebody is trained, can be trained over many years to become experienced at being a good product owner. It's not just a label that we give to people. It's an important role for somebody who can bridge between the customer, the business vision, and technology and designers and everything like that. So they can really clearly articulate and specifically articulate what needs to be designed, and go to then the technical teams and describe how that needs to happen. I do think it's their job to fall in love with the problem as well. And then we have our delivery teams, and these are really the people that kind of make it happen technically. So there might be a whole different range of people who are involved in here, from designers to developers, architects, testers, but the delivery lead is typically the person that the product owner interacts with, although in the kind of ceremonies of Agile, obviously they interact all together, but the main relationship there is with the delivery lead, who helps to kind of plan and staff the resources, make sure that the thing is on track, and is responsibility in terms of delivering the product at the end of the day.
And so that's fairly high level.
Yeah.
But ultimately the key for this is getting out there with clients and understanding what they want. I think this cartoon's brilliant in order to illustrate that. Yeah,
we like this cartoon. It just shows what happens, I think, when you miss bits, and particularly in terms of in the Agile methodology, we talk a lot about kind of transparency and communication as being really important. And this cartoon kind of just kind of in a lighthearted way pokes fun at that in terms of how things can go wrong.
And so back to process just a little bit. There's lots of pictures of this now. We've even got our own one on our digital site. It's newly added. These are pictures we've been using in the past that I hope make the process a little bit clearer. So that double diamond at the beginning, it's drawn a different way around here, and there's different words on it, divergence and convergence, but it's the same sort of principle. You start from being out in the market, understanding what client pain points are, and start to do your research. You start to look at how that pain point is being resolved or addressed at present. Is there a need to disrupt that particular delivery mechanism? Is there a cheaper way of doing it? Is there a faster way of doing it? So you start to really go very broad and think around the idea. And also now, as we're part of the digital team, we've got this added advantage that we can start to think about, well, how have we addressed this problem before in Mercer, and what pieces of kit have we got to bring to the table now that we can repurpose in some way, shape or form. This is the whole Lego blocks idea. So can we build the Lego tower in a different way to solve this problem more cost effectively? So the whole process starts over there on the left-hand side, building our research, documenting the research as well. I think it's really key to be able to demonstrate why we've made decisions about what we're thinking about and where we're heading. Document how things are being done at the moment, what clients are saying. We do this often in client events, so we hold a lot of events in our part of the world where we bring clients and prospects in for a day. A recent one we did on virtual reality was quite good fun, because we decided we'd build a virtual reality experience. We did it very, very, very low budget. We were literally using our own people as actors. We wrote our own script, and we did a series of experiences around misogyny and microaggressions. And we bought a really cheap set of goggles, and we brought 6 or 7 clients in to see how it had been done, let them go through the experience, give us all their feedback, and then as a group talk about, well, what experiences would they like us to build? They came up with a list of about 12 things that they would use VR for in HR, and then we voted on the top one. It was mental wellness. And then one of the clients said, well, we'll co-create that with you. So we shared the costs, and we built out 6 more experiences on mental wellness. And so now those are in our library, and we're licensing those and selling them out to other clients. So that first part is all that research and strategy. And then you go on to solution design and development. And it's a very iterative process. And then at that point, you can go out to launch and review stage. And Chris, on the next slide, I know you've got a bit more detail to go through.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, the key thing is to say as well is that, you know, these are not kind of sequences. What we're not looking for, like all of the and then all the definition, and then all the delivery, and then all the testing, and then all the launching, because that's kind of the waterfall way. But what we want to do is produce lots of iterative packages, particularly in software design. And so this is kind of like it's kind of too detailed for us to go through in enough detail right now. But you know what Yvonne was saying about before about, you know, we often start too far to the right of the model, and typically we go from, oh, we've got an idea, straight into solution design without thinking through some of the kind of foundational research, you know, setting a clear kind of vision and strategy, and how will we measure that success, and then, you know, how can we really describe what our business needs are, the needs of the customer, how we really will solve that problem. And a key piece is also this feedback loop with real users, real clients, and they generate new insights that may cause us to think again. And so until we've been through this process a little while, then we get to the point whereby we say, okay, fine, now we're ready for some solution design. And that's where, you know, we start talking about writing user stories and visual design and specifications and sizing and architecture. And I do always joke that, you know, we mentioned this on the previous call I was referencing with effective conversation with clients, but, you know, the question that you always get at the beginning of a project is, right, how long, how many resources, how much money, and, you know, by when can you deliver it? And the honest answer is, until you go through some of this process, you don't know. So if you're saying, oh yeah, well, we'll deliver it by the summer, and you've no idea what you're building yet, you've shot yourself in the foot to start with. And so we need to get more comfortable with actually having, you know, if we're working in this agile way where we can pivot and where we can adapt to change, and where we do deliver frequently working bits of the product, we need to be comfortable also with a little bit more in terms of the flexibility of that timing. Otherwise, we could say, okay, well, we'll spend between now and the summer defining the product, and then we'll build it over the next year, and then you'll get something, you know, next year in August sometime. And then again, that's not what we want either. And then we go into this kind of, so again, in this solution design phase, again, you know, these feedback loops are so critical. We may find things that in the feedback loop, they say, oh, well, that's not how we'd imagined it at all. When we were talking, you know, in this feedback, we were talking about these businesses, that's not how we imagined it at all. So great, that's new insight. We can feed that in. Better not to build something that we thought was right and then take it all the way through to launch and find out over here that we didn't get it right. Rather find that out during the process here. And the only other thing I'll call out on this slide then is these feasibility partners. That's what we call them anyway. Is just to say, engage these people as early as possible. You know, risk, legal, compliance. I think often people talk about those people and say, oh no, we don't want to say anything to them until, you know, and then you get to launch and then they say, well, why didn't you come and talk to us earlier? And then actually what I found working at Mercer, working at previously at other companies, is actually the sooner you engage those people, the more input you get early on from those, actually the better your product becomes, and you don't have to do a lot of rework towards the end. And some of these others we're going to pick up actually in some of the learnings, I think, on the next slide.
And I'd just add on this, go back one, sorry, Chris, I'd just add on that, what I found with a recent project when I was chatting to the risk team, for example, I showed them the demo that we've mocked up and they said, oh, absolutely love that bit. When can we have that? So it's yet another opportunity to get more input to your idea. And I'd also add one more thing on this. I think you can sort of see three nice feedback loops there. The research shows that the cost of running this whole process end to end, at the research stage, you'll pay, if I just unitize it, it's about 1 unit. By the time you're getting to the development, that's that middle solution design phase, your unit is about 10 times your research costs. If by the time you get to launch and you have to fix something, your cost is likely to be 100. So it's much better to tweak early on in the left-hand side of the process, because otherwise you could be paying 100 times the unit cost to fix something.
Yeah.
So I think this is almost our last slide. So lessons learned, certainly for me, and I'm an ex-consultant and I love being out with clients. So that's my favorite place. Keep clients and users close. There's a great expression, cats don't buy cat food. So you've got a buyer and a user, and remember that when you're out there talking to people, because ultimately a client is our buyer, but their employees are more likely to be the users. Business and sales teams, keep them close too. If we don't have a route to market through the sales team, you're doomed with anything you start. You really have to keep that eye on what the business actually wants, what the business has got capacity to sell, and what the capabilities of the sales teams are as well. Because if you just dump a new product in their hands, they're unlikely to want to sell that when they've got their own end of year goals to meet. Cross-log projects, horrendously more difficult, but that's actually where all the exciting stuff happens. The interplay between our lobs and silos is really where the innovation happens. And to be able to cross over and span a client problem, because clients aren't necessarily built the way we are in lines of business. They have an issue, for example, like future of work, and where does that sit in our business? It spans all of our business. So those projects are more difficult, but we shouldn't shy away from them. Big focus on revenue. We won't go anywhere without a business plan that shows a sensible revenue assumption. And the revenue assumptions, ultimately, they're a guess, but they have to be an educated guess. They have to be a set of assumptions that you've tried and tested. They have to be pricing methodologies that you've really thought through. And we get quite sophisticated on our revenue plans these days. Be clear on the marketing and go-to-market plan. We've talked about it, part of the sales team, I think. Data and analytics. Do you want to say something on that one, Chris?
Yeah, I think the kind of the learning here is that I think sometimes analytics and tagging a product or tagging a page and bothering to look at it after the product has launched or how it's performing can be kind of seen as, you know, it's a bit of an afterthought. But actually, unless you have the data and the analytics, you don't know if your product's performing well. So, you know, if you're writing, you know, if you're in a technical team and you're writing stories or you're implementing a product and somebody hasn't thought about analytics, then you know you're off to a bad start because you won't be able to know if you're hitting your goals. And then also don't throw your product over the fence. And so this is really to say, you know, if you don't bring those teams, like a lot of these teams that we're talking about now, if you're designing this for a client or if you're designing this for another team in Mercer, don't at the end of the project just go, well, here you go, hot potato pass, and then expect them to kind of adopt it fully, because that will never work. So make sure that you're engaging people all the way through, and making sure that they feel like they've got ownership over the product as well. Okay, and then finally, in closing, I think we've listed here a few resources for you. These are all links that once the presentation gets published, I think within a couple of days, will be available. These are all links. So this one goes to the Mercer Digital community, where you can find out more about the operating framework, a lot of the different roles. Agile at Mercer, more about the ways of working. The Technology Center, there's actually lots of good videos up there as well about a kind of a day in the life of, which is why we thought that might be an interesting one. So a day in the life of a product owner, a day in the life of a architect might be interesting for people to watch. The Launchpad, lots of good kind of training opportunities there. We've got broad distribution, like learning partnerships with LinkedIn and edX. If you haven't accessed those yet, please do. We now have access, by the way, to all of LinkedIn Learning. So if you'd like to access that, which is normally a paid for subscription of like £70, or I don't know what the equivalent would be in dollars, but just shy of $100 a month is all there for you to use. TechBeat, our tech newsletter from Digital, done by Maria. And then, of course, the other virtual festival sessions and the recordings that's there available as a catalogue. I think that's it. Are there any, Jeff, are there any questions that we can address, or
there is a question? I do want to be mindful of people's time.
Yeah.
And there's somebody who raised their hand. So Jean and Vicky, we see your things. We won't get rid of them. If you want to stick on, then maybe Yvonne and Chris can address. But for those who do have to go as a hard stop, since we're at the end of our half hour, thank you so much for being here. Jeff just posted a link to a SurveyMonkey to give feedback. It would be great if people could do that. But if you two don't mind, Jean wrote, are you working on any internal projects to improve processes using I think, digital solutions? So anything?
Yes is the answer to that. And there's lots of them popping up all over the place. So from very localized solutions where it is literally a simple automation of a task. One we did last year was there was a task that took 50 hours every quarter. We got it down to running an hour every quarter. So that was a win. There's lots and lots of these going on now all over the world, and many of them run through Mercer Services as well, rather than through the digital teams.
And then the other question that came in will say, we're looking at building the DS digital strategy and potentially a client portal. What are your thoughts on buy, not build in digital projects? Which is a very heavy question.
I think it depends a little bit on the requirements, and Vicky would be happy to talk to you about that and see what the specific requirements are. There certainly are, we referenced them earlier about Lego blocks, and there certainly are reusable parts that are available in Mercer for things such as this. But maybe that's opportunity for us to touch base offline. We're happy to do that. I think
there's no rule of thumb, is there, Chris? Really?
No. I mean, yeah. Obviously there will be. It depends on the requirements. I mean, it's kind of, we're talking in hypotheticals, but I think as a rule, we don't have a kind of a set answer to that. We will work with third parties for bringing data in, sharing data out, for creating the working environment. So yes, we have a series of kind of partnerships that we're working with as well through Innovation Hub, and so Vicky, we're happy to touch base and talk about exactly what you need.
Awesome. If Vicky says thank you. So if other people have questions, we'd love to have you engage with us either through the digital@mercer.com email address, to Yvonne and Chris directly on our digital community page. Reach out. We're here. We want to engage. So.
Yeah, love to talk to you. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thanks everyone.
Bye for now.
Bye.